Hello everyone, I'm Eric, and today I'm diving into something that's got me both excited and a bit worried. Databricks. I just stumbled upon this platform recently while researching data tools for a construction project, and honestly it sounds like a game changer. Or does it? As someone who's seen how messy construction data can get, from project timelines to material costs, I'm curious if this big database can really help. But I'm skeptical too. It's not cheap, and without the right setup, it might be just another shiny toy gathering digital dust. Let's explore this together, starting simple and building up. We'll touch on Python by PySpark, SQL, some cheaper alternatives, and why construction data might not be ready yet for the full machine learning treatment. First off, Databricks is this unified analytical platform built on Apache Spark. It's designed for handling massive datasets, which in construction could mean crunching numbers from site sensors, supply chains, or even big models. I'm intrigued with it because it lets you integrate Python through PySpark, that's your chains API for big data processing. Imagine loading a huge CSV of construction logs and using Python code like this. Here I have uploaded some SSV files and then start running some transformation, first selecting, and then I could like define the data type. I could also like filter the data, add new columns, aggregate columns, similar transformation like pandas in Python. That pulls your data into a data frame, and from there you can filter, aggregate, or even run machine learning pipelines. But wait, doesn't stop at Python. Databricks has an SQL interface too. Also, it has another tab for dashboard where you can start exploring data like this that I start running, and even though has some data engineering and machine learning sections. That looks pretty cool, right? It feels seamless, like a notebook where code and query links together. In construction, this could help spot costs, overruns, or predict delays. But here's my skeptical side. Is this overkill for most teams? Look, I'm using the training version, but for production, Databricks isn't free. We're talking cloud costs that can rack up quickly. Think like 0.040 per DBU for jobs, plus storage fees. If your construction firm is small or mid-sized, that adds up fast. And there's the real kicker. Without well-structured data governance, like clear rules or who accesses what, data quality checks and versioning or basic data literacy across your team is not going to help. But for that, first let's start local. So let's start understanding what are the free options tool in the market. For example, I'm gonna use this small Python script here to upload data from the same SSV file, the comma separate document, into an SQLite. And you can see here the lines of codes required are really not many. And then after running this script, I can get my data into this symbol is an SQL database, which later I can query. What is the advantage of having the data into an SQLite? It's light. It doesn't use a lot of memory. So instead of querying later from many Excel files, you can just query from the database. You can append here other tables. Leveling up to MySQL. So the second option in the market is to install SQL in your local computer. So you can create a table and then indicate the columns on that table. Notice the difference. When we create the table with SQLite, we didn't need to declare where is the database, where it's gonna be storage, or the columns structure. But for MySQL, we need to define first which is the database, and then which are the columns where we want to populate the information. I use this command to get the columns and populate into my SQL, but that's not the point. Notice as well that for my SQL, we need to define a user and a password, which I had defined previously. And then we need to ensure that the data fills the right information. Because if we don't obey these rules, the data is not going through the database. But all these tools are really good for solo people who is doing the analysis. What about if we want to go online? Remember, all of this is local. SQLite and MySQL are installed in my local computer. But if I want to collaborate, which is the advantage that Databricks show us, because this data does, I got really surprised for this, because I populate my data into the system and then I run the same scripts in two different computers and it ran. So what are the options if I want to do this online? For this, I could mention this tool, which is called Supabase. Supabase has a free version up to 500 megabytes. So if you structure really well your data, you could run some exercise and exploratory analysis with this tool as well. And of course, you can, with the difference that this is not MySQL, this is PostgreSQL database. But the syntaxes should be similar. So with some code, you could populate the data from Supabase into your local computer where you're running your scripts. Another option for free will be to use a Colab notebook from Google. But let's be real, data from project control software is mostly quantitative, number on budgets, schedule quantities. It's missing qualitative stuff like site conditions, regulatory conditions, that makes applying machine learning algorithms inviable for production right now. You cannot reliably predict delays without that full picture. Exploratory analysis, totally fine. Use PySpark, Pandas, MySQL to identify these patterns, but for mission critical decision, stick to basic rules until your data matures. So, Databricks in construction. I'm still skeptical about the cost, but curiosity, optimistic if you got governance in place. What do you think? Worth the hype? Drop your thoughts below. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more data types.